Mr. Sikhakhane.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Murata, let me start with the elephant in the room while you were cross-examined now. I'm going to start with that issue at the end.
Okay.
There are two versions, and that's what causes the anxiety.
Yes.
Your version and Ms. Mengo's version are mutually destructive in this way, and I want your comment. You testified that Ms. Mengo had her laptop, therefore her laptop had the initial complaint, right?
Yes.
She testified that she didn't. She had no reference to the initial complaint. No, she had no copy. She had nothing electronic, although there were things that are similar, but let's leave that for now.
Yes.
That is the elephant in the room here. What has caused what is. So, do you agree with me?
Yes, Council.
That these two versions are mutually exclusive? One is untrue.
That's correct, Council.
And if it's either you are not telling the tribunal the truth, or Ms. Mengo did not tell the tribunal the truth.
Yes.
Do you want to comment?
Yes, Council. Like I've explained, Ms. Mengo had brought when we arrived at the hotel, and then she offloaded her things. She had a luggage, and then she had a laptop, and she had the bag. At the time we were at the office, she had her handbag at all times. It's only when we go to the office that now she had a laptop and her luggage and a handbag. And then, as I've explained, because it was too late, around past 9, I had to get home. I then asked her that, well, because we are not finished, can she continue typing, finalizing the document? Because it was a very, very long story. Even at the hotel, we know she would still get emotional as well.
Yes.
And then, so she had the complaint. The morning that when she came to the office with the laptop, and then there was a memory stick. I don't recall whether it was from her or myself, where we uploaded the complaint, and I printed it so that we can take it to commission. But I think after, when we're dealing, I also saved the uncommissioned one. I also saved it for my laptop. So she also had a copy of that. I also had a copy of it.
Yes.
Just a minute, because there might have been a confusion that you didn't intend. So I want that clarification.
Yes, President.
At the time when she was at the office, you saw her at the office after you had been called by the advocate?
Yes.
Now, that was at the office of the OCJ.
Yes, President.
At that stage, did Mr. Mengo have her laptop?
No. She only had her handbag.
Yes.
Yes.
At which stage did you notice that she had her laptop?
When we got to the hotel.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Because they had booked her, she had a rental car, so everything was there.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, Ms. Murata. Let me complete this part, and then we'll go sequentially again.
Okay.
Because it's what I think caused what you went through now. So, because you were watching the proceedings, something that is uncontroversial at all that was established was that the complaint, the second, let's call it, you call it the new complaint in your emails, the second complaint about which we are today, in certain parts, which is consistent with your version, is the same as the initial one, including mistakes, including spaces between where the word ends and where the full stop. That's identical, absolutely identical. Throughout, except new things. Do you have any comment about what would cause that identical nature of the two?
It can only be identical if you had a copy of the first one.
Right. Let me go back to the sequence.
Yes.
Lex, now we're going to your job. You started working at in 2022 as state law advisor, right? That's what you told us.
But I've been there in the beginning of 2019. I was also there.
Yes.
Yes.
In fact, you also tell us that you're quite familiar with the complaints against judges because that's what you dealt with.
Yes, Council.
This also means that you were the recipient of complaints that complainants brought against a judge, right?
Yes, together with my other colleagues, yes.
Yes. In fact, am I correct that your office, and I don't mean you, I mean the office,
Yes, Council.
is the arbiter of those complaints? It means it receives them and determines them.
Yes, Council, that's correct.
In fact, it is your office, and that includes you and the Chief Justice and everybody else, that must determine whether a complaint is valid or not.
Yes, that's correct.
And in fact, while we are there, I'm right to say that that is the only role of your office as recipients of the complaints. You process them and you make sure that they are dealt with fairly and without prejudice.
That is correct.
Right. In fact, I take it that one of your core responsibilities, as you said, was to summarize, sometimes write a memorandum to give to the Chief Justice, right?
That is correct.
You also said that you served as the Judicial Complaints Commission and the JCC, right?
Secretariat, yes.
Secretary of that. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sikhakhane, but the Judicial Compliance Commission and the JCC is the same thing.
Yes, sorry, I made a mistake. Yeah, I made a mistake there. I think it's she understands what I mean. You
Yes.
are what you are.
Yes, I understand what you mean.
Thank you. Thank you. There are so many JCC and right. Are there other responsibilities that the Section 16, 15, 16, 17 impose on you about how you process a complaint, other than the ones you've told us, which is to receive, to make sure that the Chief Justice receives them, and to make sure that to determine whether they are valid? Are there any other responsibilities that you have
In terms of?
in relation to complaints that you can think of?
Well, in terms of, it depends. If it's Section 17, you know that you will receive a complaint, and then the Chief Justice will designate it to a particular member, a JCC member, to deal with that complaint. So you make a copy of that complaint and the letter of referral to the designated member to deal with the complaint. So after if there's a letter and then the complaint, I will give it to the JCC member to deal with that complaint. After the JCC member receives that complaint, once they've read it, they will tell me to issue a letter to the respondent,
Yes.
requesting a written submissions as to the complaint that has been lodged against them.
Perfect.
Yes.
And am I correct, therefore, that in terms of Section 16, when you've received this, Section 16(1) of the JSA Act, right, JSC Act,
Yes.
the Chief Justice, if the complaint is valid,
Yes.
must refer it to the committee. Am I correct? Is
The
that
JCC, that's correct.
the
Council.
JCC? I'm
Yes.
correct this time, the JCC, the right JCC.
Yes.
Right. Am I correct that the Chief Justice and your office, as the arbiters of complaints, your job ends with processing it and making sure that it moves to the committee?
Remember, as the Chief Justice was the chairperson at the time, the complaint was given to him to consider.
Yes.
And then he read the complaint. And then after he established that if there's a likelihood, I don't recall the act from my head, Council.
It's the
Yes,
likelihood.
the matter will then be referred to the Judicial Conduct Committee to consider whether to refer the complaint to the tribunal. Hence, I said that at some point the Chief Justice asked me to write a letter where we refer the complaint to the JCC.
Yes. No, I get
Yes.
that. I get
Yes,
that. So
Council.
that's the role. That's what happened when your office receives it, is that you determine. And if it's not valid, does the Act tell us? Does the process tell what happens if it's not?
You mean in terms of if the complaint is not valid?
It's not valid, and there's maybe it's not valid, and there's no likelihood that it would lead to impeachment or charge of misconduct. What happens?
If a complaint is not valid,
Yes.
normally if it depends against on the seriousness of the offense, if it will be dealt with in terms of Section 6, if it's Section 16 and it was referred to the JCC and then they said And when they consider the complaint, they establish that it's not valid, then they will dismiss the complaint.
No, we're not there yet.
Oh.
The Act says if valid, the Chief Justice must then refer it. And I'm asking you, and if not,
Then it would not be referred to the Judicial Corner Committee.
and what happens to it?
Then it means it probably fell under Section 15 complaints.
Which means?
We're not talking about in a sense if it's a sexual harassment. We're just talking it in.
No, I'm not in terms of which conduct. I'm
okay.
saying a complaint. And
We are not even
Oh.
talking specifically about this case.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's just the general
Okay.
process.
If it's
Thank you, Chair. That's yeah.
if it's not valid, it would be considered maybe it dealt with in terms of Section 15, where it can be summarily be dismissed. Maybe in a sense that it relates to a court order, or it's frivolous, then lacking in substance. Yes.
Yes, I'm saying if it's not valid, I don't think the Act would have a section that way providing that you send invalid complaints.
No.
Yeah, so I'm asking you, all complaints, forget their nature.
Yes.
Because the Act tells us if it's serious, if it's not serious. What happens when a complaint that lands on your table, or let's say the Chief Justice, but that includes you, is invalid?
If it's invalid, then it will not be considered.
Right.
Yes.
Do you know, in your experience, because you've dealt with complaints, have you had a complaint that's invalid before?
Yes, we have had many whereby whereby it would not have. Let's for instance, sometimes people will lodge a complaint through a letter.
Yes.
Yes, that is some of the instances whereby it will not be valid because the complaint must be lodged in the form of an affidavit or an affirm statement.
So that is invalid?
Yes, if it's in a letter.
Yes, I'm saying.
Yes.
If it's not in the format that is prescribed.
Yes, Council.
Right. And the role of your office would be to, as you said, then let's use the word, it falls apart.
Yes, but yes, but
It's
you
not
would.
valid.
Yes, but you will inform the complainant that the reason why it's not valid.
Of course.
Yes.
Right.